Welcome to Lived In, a podcast series by Hemby Home Company. Lived In is all about interior styling for the ordinary home. If you live in an ordinary house on an average street and you love design, this podcast is for you. Many of us long to infuse the places in which we dwell with both style and livability, but we also have to stick to realistic budgets. What does it look like to live in a space that transitions with you as life does? How do you build equity while creating a space that truly feels like home? And what can you do to make a space yours when it doesn't belong to you? Join me, Femi, a realtor, content manager, and interior advisor, and let's find out. Hi guys, welcome back. I hope that you're all doing well. I am recording this the day after Thanksgiving, so I have a belly full of turkey and cranberry jelly and stuffing and mashed potatoes. I actually didn't touch the sweet potato casserole this year. I think it's just far too sweet. Let me know what you guys think. Anyway, this episode, which I will hurry up and get into, is going to be a meaty one. And I know it's kind of a pivot from our usual content, as for once we're actually getting into real estate versus design. But if you are a listener who really likes the design-centered conversation, practical design, budget design conversation, then please still listen. We're going to touch on some of those things in this episode as well. So I'm sure there will be things of value in here for you too. All right. The first thing we have to get into, and I say we have to because we really have to, is finances. Let's tackle the boring stuff first, shall we? Finances are where it all starts. Unfortunately, a lot of people think that the first step for buying a house is to get on Zillow. And spoiler alert, it's not. As an agent or as a realtor, I have unfortunately given a lot of time away to people who think that they're ready to buy a house, but are not actually able to buy one. Now, I'm not upset at these people at all. Unfortunately, they don't teach in university or in school the correct steps for buying a house. So most people don't know where to start or what they need to think about. I can go into a deep dive, in theory anyway, but I am not a mortgage broker. So here are just a few pieces of advice about money when it comes to buying a house. Number 1, make sure you can qualify. Generally, people who are permanent residents or citizens in the United States and have been in the same job for 2 years or more will qualify, provided they meet the specific parameters of the loan they're applying for. It can be hard for self-employed people to qualify because the lender typically wants to ensure that the self-employed person will continue to earn the same amount or more that they initially qualify with. Make sure, if you're a self-employed person, to have at least 2 years worth of tax returns for proof of income for the lender. Number 2 is to shop around. Don't just automatically go with your normal bank. Please don't do that. I'm begging you to not do that, actually, because some banks are great for normal things, but terrible for mortgages. You don't have to, and you don't need to, stay with your normal bank. Different banks have different policies and programs, and most states also have mortgage entities that don't do any other kind of banking. Once you have your credit score checked at one institution, there is typically a period of between 30 to 60 days where you can continue to get your credit checked without any further impact to your score. This is built in to protect you as a borrower so that you can explore your options. So make sure that you do that. Note, credit unions often have lower rates. So if you work for your state or you have a relative who has worked for your state, blood relative, I believe, consider becoming a member and checking their rates. Speaking of credit, it matters. So number 3 is that your credit matters. It doesn't need to be perfect, but generally a higher score is going to mean a lower interest rate, which also means a lower payment, monthly payment. So to be able to qualify for a loan, The last report that I read said you needed to have a credit score of at least 500. This is going to depend on the lender that you're using and the amount of cash you're able to put towards the total purchase amount. Some lenders I know won't work with buyers with credit scores below 620. I'd really advise talking to a mortgage broker about your credit. And that's because some banks, and I know at least one locally, some banks offer assistance and work directly with the credit scoring companies so that they can see what will make the biggest impact to your score, and they will help you at no cost to you. Might seem too good to be true, but really that's just because if you buy with them, then they get your business. So they're helping you to help themselves. Everybody wins. Your credit isn't the only thing that matters, though. So number 4 is your debt to income ratio. And this is the amount of existing debt that you have, and then the amount that you make each month. Now, the lender cares about this because they need to make sure that you can afford the monthly payment that you're going to have. So once you've totaled your existing debts and you've totaled your existing income, the goal is to have a ratio below 43%, or more optimally, below 35%. This also helps keep your mortgage rate down. Higher debt to income ratio, higher monthly payment, higher credit score, lower monthly payment, which is quite nice. Now, the next factor you need to think about is your down payment. I've had some clients who say that they have money, and they mean physical cash, that they have physical cash saved that they want to use for a down payment. Now, that is all well and good, but lenders want to see the paper trail. And this is because they want to know where the money is coming from and that it's not illegal, for example. So you can't just one day make a huge deposit and then say, oh, I put in 50,000 in my account. There's 50,000 in my account today. The bank's going to say, well, where did that come from? So what you can do, and this is fine in my state, and I believe in the majority of states as well, is to use gifts from relatives as part of your down payment or your closing costs. There are some rules around that you'll need to check with your lender, but it's something that you are able to do. If your grandma wants to leave you 50 grand towards buying a house, go for it. She can do that. Just make sure you check all the right boxes. Now, something I wasn't aware of until I started working as a realtor was the fact that there are so many different types of loan programs. So you need to make sure that you learn about them. And, back to credit unions, some of the credit unions will let you borrow 100% of the purchase amount. So let's say you're buying a house for 400,000, they will give you a loan for 400,000. Some will give you more than that. They'll give you like 101% loans where no down payment is required. And then there are also US Department of Agriculture loans, USDA loans, that also offer 100% loans, but those require specific parameters to be met in order for you to qualify. In North Carolina, there's also a program for down payment assistance, and I believe it's in a lot of other states too. So I would look into that if you're struggling to come up with a down payment. There is more to speak on about the down payment, but I'll get to that in just a second. So we've spoken about different loan programs, but you also need to learn about different loan types. There are fixed rate mortgages, adjustable rate mortgages, jumbo loans, conventional loans, FHA loans, USDA loans, VA loans, 30-year loans, 15-year loans. The list goes on. Sometimes if the numbers aren't working out, it could be that the loan type is the wrong one for you. So make sure that you explore different ones. And typically on a 15-year loan, the interest rate might look better, but you're paying a larger sum every month because it's 15 years, not 30. So just these are things to think about. Now, circling back to what I said about the down payment, do not just think about your monthly payment. It's very easy to say, well, we currently pay XYZ a month, so when we move, we'll pay ABC a month. I have seen so many reels joking about buying a house and having no money to furnish it. Don't make this mistake. When we bought our house, my husband and I put together a spreadsheet estimating as best we could all the expenses involved in moving, so we knew what it was going to cost us out of pocket and what we would have left over. And when I say we put everything in there, I mean everything. The cost of movers, the cost of any appliances we were going to need, the closing costs, the estimated deposit at the time of contract, the cost of the inspections, the cost to have our house cleaned before moving out, the cost of any upfront bank fees like the appraisal. I've actually made a copy of the spreadsheet that we had for you, and it's free. It's linked in the show notes and it's on the website. Factoring in all your costs helps you see if you really can afford the move, and it helps you know what you'll have left over so you don't move in and you suddenly find your cash poor. Note, you will have to put money down for the deposit out of pocket, even with a 100% loan. So I have worked with buyers before who are saying, the bank is giving us our down payment. You know, they're buying a house for $165,000 and they say the bank's giving us our money for our down payment. And then at the time that the contract is being drawn up, at the time that they're making their offer, they have to put some money down to show that they're serious. The bank doesn't give you that money to give to the seller. The bank will reimburse you, or the lender will reimburse you, or use that money to be credited to you at closing for your closing costs. But you will still have to have money up front for that initial deposit that shows you're serious, and for any inspections and for the appraisals. Next, I don't think I've actually had this happen to me with a client before, but I know other people have had this happen. And that is that they will be under contract on a house, which means that their offer has been accepted. They haven't yet closed on the house, so it's not yet theirs. And they decide to change jobs. This is very bad. Don't do this. Very, very bad. So don't switch jobs or take out new loans or buy appliances or furniture on credit until after closing on your house. You can spend any cash you want, actual cash, but not credit. When you do these things, they affect whether or not you still qualify for the loan. And that's even after initial approval or initial qualification, because until you close, those things can change. So wait till you have the keys and then do those things as you need to do them. I mean, if you're going to close on February 1st, don't start your new job or quit your old job until February 2nd. Just don't do it. One more thing, and then we will move on from finances, because whilst this is helpful, I know it's not necessarily inspiring. Bear in mind that you might have to pay out of pocket for repairs on the house. The seller isn't always going to take care of everything. And sometimes this is because they are too stingy or greedy, and I have experienced that, and nothing frustrates me more. And other times, it's because they just don't have the liquid cash available to do the repairs. So if they get a request to do a $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 repair, they maybe just don't have that money, and so it's not going to happen. A good realtor or a good agent is going to advise you to purchase a home that you can have reasonable confidence in, as much as is possible within your budget. But even the most perfect looking, perfect seeming houses have one or two issues that need to be addressed. I have had clients on both sides of this. So I've had a client where we walked through the house, we didn't suspect anything looking at it, everything seemed to work fine, but there were one or two things that were quite obvious, and I was working for the buyer. There were one or two things that were quite obvious that needed to be taken care of, but we thought, well, we're making a really good offer. The seller's going to take care of that. No, the seller did not take care of the rotting door on the back porch. They did not. They said that was our problem. And then on the other side, I've also had sellers who are cash poor, selling their house. It seems perfect. It shows really well. But then we found terrible damage in the crawl space. And I mean like 20 grand worth of damage in the crawl space. And in that instance, for whatever reason, God bless the buyers, they negotiated with us to reduce their offer price, but they still went ahead with it and purchased it. They could do that though, because they were buying with cash. So anyway, just be aware that you may have to pay out of pocket for repairs on the house before or after closing. Be prepared for that. Are you bored yet? Let me recap those really quickly. Make sure you can qualify, shop around for a lender, Fix your credit as needed. Watch your debt to income ratio. Think about your down payment. Explore the different loan programs and the different loan types. Factor in all costs. Do not make any big purchases or life decisions before closing, and consider the cost of repairs. All right, that's enough of that. Let's check out my thing of the week. My thing of the week this week is the scallop trim placemat, or my things of the week this week are the scallop trim placemats. It's a set of 4 placemats from Schoolhouse. They, as I'm looking at them, their regular price is $34 and you get a set of 4, and they come in 3 different colors. So you can get them in the honey color. It's a kind of a mustardy, rich yellow with a reddy orange border. Or you can get them in green, how would I describe this green? A teal green with a blue scalloped border. Or you can get them in white, which is, they call it white, but it's definitely cream. Cream placemats with a scalloped red border. And I love the cream with the red border because I have really been struggling to find decor for Christmas that is not really in your face, screaming Christmas, gaudy. Gaudy, gaudy. With my accent, I doubt everything nowadays, but I really don't like gaudy design. I don't like it to say merry on it. I don't want it to say Christmas on it. I don't want it to say good cheer. I don't want any words on it, actually. I really cannot stand words on things. Unpopular opinions here. Can't stand words on things. I don't want it to be screaming Christmas. I just want it to be very subtly Christmas. So the cream and the white works really well for me. And then I can use my plates and I can add other things to make it feel more Christmassy. But anyway, that's enough about me. The placemats are a set of 4, as I said. They are 85% cotton and 15% linen, machine washable, and can be ironed if needed. And 4 for $34 is not that bad. So why don't you go ahead and check them out? I've linked them in the show notes. All right, that's my thing of the week. Let's get back to things home buyers need to know. Okay, we've done the boring but necessary finance stuff. Thank God, right? There is a little bit more boring stuff. And again, a good realtor is going to point some of these things out to you to help protect your interests. But I will try and bullet point these and keep them succinct. I don't have high hopes for myself on that. Double check the condition and age of the windows, HVAC, and roof. Age doesn't always mean that it's going to be in bad condition, but the older the item is, the more likely it is to be in bad condition. For the roof, architectural shingles are typically good for at least 30 years, so check what the roof is made of and check the general lifespan of that item. Serviced HVACs, so those that are regularly cleaned up and looked over, those last longer than those that are not. So not every 5 or 10 year HVAC is equal. And then there's nothing wrong with older windows, but look out for wood rot if they are original wooden windows, because that's a very real thing. I'm already failing at keeping this short and sweet. Also check the following. Check if the floor is uneven. There could be crawl space issues if the property is in a crawl space. If it's not, then I don't know why the floor is uneven. That's actually kind of more terrifying to me. Check that the floor is uneven. Make sure there are no crawl space issues. Check the crawl space doesn't have any moisture issues. There's typically wood rot is very common in crawl spaces where I live because of the humidity, and termites love that too, so watch out for that. Check for cracks in the ceiling, walls, exterior, and foundation. Again, these are not always something to be concerned about or afraid of, but if you notice them, pay attention to where they are. That's something to flag for the inspector, although whoever's inspecting your house should flag that for you too. Look for any signs of water damage or ongoing leaks. Run the taps, check under the sinks for leaks, check around the dishwasher, look around the washer and dryer, and If you have access under the house and you want to look under the sinks or the showers, go for it. Make sure to look out for standing water. It's actually sometimes good to look at houses after it's rained or while it's raining, just to know definitively if there are leaks or water issues. Also check for any slow drains or slow water pressure. Those are fairly easy fixes most of the time, but it's good to know what you're getting into. Older wiring, so if you're buying an older house, and by older house I would say before the 2000s, if you're buying a house that was built before the 2000s, look out for older wiring or mislabeled or unlabeled electrical boxes. Those are always flagged by inspectors and appraisers. And they can be expensive because if you have to rewire a whole house, that's a whole thing. Last of the really boring items, look for signs of pests like termites and cockroaches. They can be hard to get rid of. Termites typically can be fine. It's a treatment, and I think maybe they'll come back every year or so and make sure everything's fine. That's not a big deal, but cockroaches, I've never lived anywhere where cockroaches have been treated and they've not still been around. But that's my 2 cents. Okay, now to the things that are kind of within your home, the things that are going to affect you visually. Look for your floor plan or focus on your floor plan and layout. This is expensive to change, so make sure to choose a floor plan that works for your needs. The number of bathrooms and bedrooms matters a lot, as does the ability to move through the space easily. Look out for tight corners or weird steps up or steps down. Pay attention to the natural light. A place that feels dark likely generally is. So pay attention to where the light comes in, how many windows are there in the space? Can you get light from 2 sides of a room? Is there only one window? That's an expensive thing to change, so if that matters to you, pay attention. Check for storage. Our current house has nowhere to hang coats, which is not a huge deal for us because we have other storage we can make work, but look for what existing storage there is and just pay attention. Check kitchen cabinets. Our old house had its original kitchen cabinets and the inner shelves were all the same height, which was incredibly annoying because certain items just would never fit. They were never going to fit. So open cabinets when you're exploring a house. Make sure there's enough kitchen storage and the cabinets can fit the types of items that you will need to store. Not all kitchens have pantries. Sorry, HGTV, we're just not all that bougie. So look at the storage you've got, look in the cabinets, make sure they work for you. Think about logistics. You know how you live and your daily routine and all of that kind of thing. Will that work in this space? Is the garage too far from the pantry, if you have one? Is the laundry room being upstairs going to work for you, or is that too far away? Would you rather it was closer to the garage? Picture yourself cooking in the kitchen and doing your daily routine in the bathroom. Will that work? Check the width of the doorways, make sure they're wide enough for your needs and for your furniture. Almost nothing sucks as much as moving into a new place and realizing that you can't get your furniture inside. We've all seen the Friends episode. Lastly, especially if you have kids, check noise levels to make sure that sound doesn't travel too much, because that's not fun for anyone. All right, I know we've been going for quite a while, but before I close out this episode, there are just a few more things that I want to cover because I know that they'll be really helpful for you. Neighborhood. Proximity to gas stations, groceries, etc. How close are you to the things that you need to be able to access easily? I personally don't like having to drive more than about 7 minutes if I need to run out and buy milk or eggs or you name it. Convenience matters to me, so if it matters to you, pay attention to that. Something else I like is walkability. Is there a sidewalk where I can walk so I'm not in the road? Are there streetlights? That kind of thing matters. Also, while we're talking about streetlights and roads, think about access and proximity to main roads. So if the house is on a main road, how hard is it or how easy is it to get in and out of the driveway or back out? Is there often traffic on that road? Think about how that's going to affect you. Pay attention to school district. This is typically important for clients with kids. Do you care about the school district? Is the house where you would like it to be in order for you to be able to get your kids into the school of your choice? How much does the school matter to you? Future developments. What future developments are coming up in the area or on the road where the house is situated? Are they planning to widen the road? Is the area up for rezoning? What businesses are coming to that area? All of these will influence how much you want the property and how it will resell in the future. So pay attention. And if you don't know, your realtor should know. And if I'm your realtor, I know. Proximity to neighbors and privacy from them. Can your neighbor see into your house? That's an issue for me personally. Can you see into their house? That's also an issue for me personally. Do you need more space in between you and your neighbors? Factor that in when you're looking at houses. A lot of the newer neighborhoods that get built, especially these spec homes, they're built extremely close together. So pay attention to what that would actually feel like. Is there a privacy glass in the bathroom, for example? That kind of thing. AC vents. This sounds really, really stupid, but I showed a lot of houses to some former clients of mine. And when we looked at houses, one of the critiques that they kept giving me was the placement of AC vents. And as somebody who owns their own home, I understand it, even though I'm not the one that changes our filters. Changing up the filters is really, really annoying. And if they're really far up, if they're on 10-foot ceilings or at the top of a wall in a room with 10-foot ceilings, they're going to be really challenging and they're never going to get changed. So they need to be accessible. Think about that. Appliances. A lot of people assume that appliances do or don't come with the house. It can go either way. So make sure that your realtor or you check the listing and make sure to specify in any offer to purchase exactly what appliances the house does and doesn't come with. Same thing goes with light fixtures. Very often people will write, the chandelier in the dining room is not included. If they say the chandelier in the dining room is not included, you need to pay attention to that. Privacy within the home. So we talked about your neighbors and their proximity to you, but also, are the walls paper thin? Can you hear conversations upstairs when you're sat downstairs in the dining room? Does that matter to you or does it not? To me it would, because I'm a parent and I don't want to hear all the noise upstairs, downstairs. Utilities. Is the property on a city sewer and city water, or is it using a septic tank? This matters because one requires owner maintenance, septic tank, and the other one doesn't. If you don't know, your realtor should know, and if your realtor doesn't know, they're able to find out so that they will know. Tax limits. If you're trying to avoid paying city taxes, you need to be outside of city limits. Pay attention to city limits. Again, this is one that the realtor, a seasoned realtor, is going to know. Older homes and lead-based paint. Now, in North Carolina, if the house is built before 1978, when it is sold, it has to be sold along with a disclosure that says whether or not there is lead-based paint in the home and what the owner's knowledge of that is. So just pay attention. Usually it's not an issue, but it's good for you to know that it's there so that you can be aware as you make changes to the home. Existing leases. Now, existing leases means that the house that you're buying has somebody already living in it and they have some sort of lease agreement. Find out when that ends. You may have to honor that. And then if it's a vacation home, I believe it's up to 180 days, but you have to honor all bookings going forward 180 days after your closing date. So these are things to know. Roads. Not all public roads or not all roads are maintained by the city or the town in which the property is located. So find out who maintains those roads. The last one I'm going to stop at is easements. Now, an easement might be a utility easement or an access easement for a neighbor. So it just means there's maybe a portion of land that is on the property that needs to be accessed by somebody other than you if you then become the property owner. So a utility easement would be, well, there's an area behind your house that's still on your land that the utility company needs to be able to come out and access regularly, and you can't stop them. Be aware of those. I said that was the last thing, but I've thought of one more, and that is restrictive covenants. Not every neighborhood has an HOA, thank God, correct? But there are quite a few neighborhoods, 90% of neighborhoods have a restrictive covenant. And that is a set of rules for the style of home that can be built in that neighborhood, what kind of business can be conducted on the property in that neighborhood, what kind of vehicles are allowed in there, what the noise levels are, if you can have animals in there, what you can build, if you can build a separate garage or you can't. All of that is going to be in the restrictive covenants. And that's something else that your realtor should be able to find for you. Well, that's it. Thank God. There's quite a bit you need to be thinking about when you're buying a home, and it's very easy to get overwhelmed. Don't be put off by all of that. Really, all of these questions can be answered and thought about really well if you have a realtor who knows your needs, understands your needs and your wants, and is able to help you distinguish between those, and is good at their job. And fortunately for you, number one, I'm a realtor, and if you're in the state of North Carolina, I can help you. Number two, I've put together a free guide of things for you to think about as you begin your journey to buy your first home. So there are questions for before you start looking, and there are also questions as you start looking at specific houses. I always tell my clients that this is probably the biggest purchase you will ever make in your life, ever. And so it pays to go in, no pun intended. And so it pays to go in with eyes wide open so you feel confident in the purchase that you're making. If you are looking to buy your first home and need a realtor, click the link in the show notes to set up a free call and find out how I can help you. If you are looking to sell your home, I also help on the list side, and I will do an episode at some point in the future talking about preparing your home for sale. Now, that's it for this episode. Our next episode will be back in 2 weeks, and then after that we will skip Christmas week and be back on January 10th, 2024 with a whole new season of episodes. I can't wait to be with you in 2 weeks' time. Until then, take care. Bye.